So welcome to the final session of Lecture 2, where we move right away on to the competitor analysis. Just as a recap, the first session was about the analysis of the macro environment, where we used the Pastel analysis to systematically analyze the changes that are relevant for the businesses and need to be systematically analyzed. The second session was about the industry analysis, where we looked at Porter's 5 forces and also applied the industry life cycle to see in what stage is the industry and what are relevant forces that could influence the attractiveness of the industry. So whether there is profit to make or not when I'm thinking about entering the industry. And the third session now will be about the competitor analysis, where we also look at strategic groups. So when you think about the reasons of why it is important to understand my competitors in the market, I need to see and be aware of what they are up to. So I need to assess their strengths and their weaknesses of current competitors, but also of potential competitors. Now, we had the example in the previous session where I need to be aware of competitors that because of the sheer financial power and because of the entrepreneurial spirit, now we know of Elon Musk, for example, setting up businesses in different industries. So they are potential competitors that deviate from their core business and venture into other areas with their new ideas and their new products. I also need to do a competitor analysis to understand the market structure. What is the market share of the competitors? Who is the market leader? So do they have a significant market share, or is the market very competitive with lots of different competitors that share the market, and no one is really a very dominant one? When I also need to think about the competitors to understand what are defense mechanisms, when they develop their products further, when they innovate and come up with new ideas, what does that mean for me as a business? Am I able to retaliate? Am I able to catch up? So what will be my strategy based on their moves? I need to be aware of that. And then I also need to see in relation to that, what is my resource base, which we look at in lecture 3, but what are also my processes in the business that help me being up to date with my developments and being able to cope and to deal with competitor strategies. So I need to be able to respond adequately to what competitors are up to. So how to conduct a competitor analysis? First of all, you need to identify the main competitors in the market. So how do you know? There are lots of statistical websites around, for example, Statista, but also Office of National Statistics in each country, where they have statistics on main competitors for the different industries. You can also look at reports from consultants that identify main competitors. But if you are very alert of the competitors, you know who the main competitors are. And you can do research on their websites, on their annual reports to see how much they have grown, what is their sales like, what is their profit like, in terms of general company size and so on. So you need to be aware of the main competitors. Second question is, and that is more crucial, is what are they good at? So you need to identify the critical success factors. You do this by analyzing the success factors in the entire industry, and I'll show you an example in a second. And then you compare the competitors and see, okay, in terms of these critical success factors, how good are they? So that you then see, okay, what are my products and services like in comparison with the competitors? Are they similar? Are they better? Do my competitors follow a different strategy by serving maybe other expectations of customers, not necessarily in terms of quality, but maybe on price or maybe on service? So I need to be aware of that. And also need to understand who are the competitors serving in terms of the customers. Do they all target the same customers, or have they maybe focused on a niche? maybe they want to develop a new market. Yeah, so I need to see how what are they up to, who are they serving, but also in terms of general success, whether they are growing or whether they are struggling, whether they have merged or formed alliances with other competitors in the market so that they join forces, which is very important for your own position as a company. So I definitely need to observe the movements of the competitors in terms of their external alliances, but also in terms of their internal product development and improvement. So here an example of the coffee shop market in the UK, where I've exemplary listed some critical success factors of Starbucks, Costa, Caffè Nero, and Craig. So these are all coffee shops in the United Kingdom, and I have listed here some typical critical success factors. And you can add many more, and I'll show you also some more examples in a second. But you could look at the size of these stores. And I have looked up here the UK, the number of UK stores, and you can see that Costa Coffee and Craig's are both very large. They are almost double the size or more than double the size than, for example, Starbucks. So that means there's potential growth for Starbucks, but existing coffee shops are already very strong because they have many more branches around the UK. So that gives me an idea of their power, of their strength. I can also look up in terms of the options that they offer, because we see in the society through my pastel analysis, for example, I can see there's more health awareness of customers. So I can analyze the competitors across the health options and see, okay, some are very committed to reduce the sugar, and some offer some vegan products, and other have healthy beverages. So it gives me an idea of how well these coffee shops have picked up the trend in society that goes into the health direction. And so I can continue this analysis throughout the main competitors for various critical success factors. I decide on these factors. I can compare many more items to see some differences. And these items could be, for example, the product quality, also the price, could be customer loyalty. So how well do they serve customers? How do they try to maintain the customer loyalty through loyalty points, for example, through a loyalty card? So what about on-time delivery? How long do I have to wait when I order something online? Now we know Amazon again is the market leader because they have now have different hubs where you can either pick up your delivery or promise to deliver it within a few hours, even within the same day. And so I can decide, and I need to decide, what are the critical success factors in my industry that appeal to customers. So it's all about the customers. What factors do customers appreciate and expect? And then I can look at or design an overview, and that is called the strategy canvas. So I can design an overview to compare competitors along these critical success factors to see where there are some gaps in the market. And here's some more examples. For example, the relationship with suppliers, punctuality, also friendliness of staff, of course, is a critical success factors. So I have here the strategy canvas, and here's an exemplar from technology or technical example where there are 3 companies that are compared across the critical success factors of cost, after sales service, delivery or reliability, then technical quality, testing services, and design advice. And here I can assess the performance based on my analysis of their annual reports, websites, and secondary sources, as I said before. And I see that, for example, company A and B are not very good in terms of testing services. That is something they don't seem to offer to customers, whereas company C provides that service here in terms of a design advice and testing services. That means for company C, that's their competitive advantage, so to speak. Now, that is something unique. That is how they differentiate from competitors. The other two don't offer this. Yeah, so company C clearly operates in the blue ocean, and that is something that is also very famous. It was a concept developed by Kim and Morborn some years ago already, but they coined the terminology of blue oceans and red ocean. And as a business, ideally, you want to find areas where there's a blue ocean. That means where there's little competition and there are gaps in the market. So the water is clean. Yeah, it's blue. The ocean is blue and pure, and there are a lot of opportunities to develop. The red ocean on the other side is where it's bloody. That's why the color red. There's fierce competition, and it's difficult to differentiate from the numerous competitors that operate in that market. So it often is about price then, but a price war is very detrimental to the company's development because the profit margin reduces and you don't have enough money left or enough profit to reinvest in a company for growth, for example. Yeah, so companies rather want to identify blue oceans, and this can happen through the strategy canvas where they compare different critical success factors. Another line of thought that I want you to be aware of is that some competitors are more relevant than others. I've shown you some examples here. Now, when you look at watches, now when you compare these watches with this watch, when you compare Land Rover with any other low-cost car, for example, or when you look at a youth hostel, for example, and a 5-star hotel. Yeah, so you need to. They are all operating in the same industry, but that does not mean that they are direct competitors and that they are very relevant for you as a business because they serve a different market. Yeah, they serve a different customer range. And so this concept is called strategic groups. Now, the definition you can see here, strategic groups are organizations within an industry with similar strategic characteristics. Yeah, so they follow or pursue similar strategies. They have a similar resource base. Yeah, so they have a similar maybe experience in the market. So they operate within the same segment. And here are some more examples. Travelodge, for example, is not in the same strategy group as Starwood Hotels, but Ritz-Carlton would be. That means if you operate in big cities such as Detroit or Chicago, where there's lots of accommodation available, lots of different types of hotels, yes, you don't need to do the competitor analysis with all of them. Yes, you need to think about similar hotels and similar standards, similar strategies, similar customers. Yeah, because they are relevant for you when it is about gaining new customers or attracting new customers. Yeah, and so the strategic group analysis might be very relevant. Now, the question is whom or how to choose relevant competitors. Yeah, when we stay with the hotel industry, yeah, so it could be hotels within the same region. Yeah, so here, for example, the geographic coverage. It could also be how many different branches they have or locations they serve. It could be the product, the branding. Yeah, so how well known are the different hotels? What is their brand value like? In terms of quality, we talked about that. In terms of hotels, it's pretty obvious, similar for restaurants. Yeah, so if I have a 3-star Michelin restaurant, I don't think that I want to compare myself with McDonald's. Yeah, so they are in a different league. Yeah, so I need to identify who's relevant to me as a customer, and I need to choose, for example, different the activities that I want to apply for the comparison, and also the resource commitment. Here an example of the world car industry. Yeah, so you have lots of different car manufacturers, yeah, operating in the upper class price range, or maybe lower class price range, also operating maybe in a niche market when they only serve their country, particular countries or particular regions, or where they serve the mass market. Now, I can also look at their product range that they offer. Do they have lots of different models, or do they only have a view? Yeah, so I need to see who is similar to me. And I guess you have a feeling already for the different brands here. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you put Fiat and Rolls-Royce in one strategic group, or if you would put Maserati and Ford in one strategic group. Yeah, it might well be, depending on the criteria that you choose. But when we look at product range and pricing, pricing policy, you probably wouldn't. Yeah, so here, one in my suggestions of how they could be clustered. Yeah, when we think of high-performing cars, Porsche and Maserati could probably be in one cluster, in one strategic group. And you could have maybe luxury car manufacturers here, Daimler, Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, maybe in one group. And then you have the typical middle-class cars that offer a wide range of models, such as Toyota, Ford, Volkswagen, Nissan maybe as well. And then you have maybe some more regionally focused car manufacturers, such as Fiat and Renault. Yeah, so you would need to provide evidence for your clusters to really see who is operating in the same kind of strategic group. And that is important because it helps you understand where competition comes from. And so in terms of getting this data about the competitors, I would like you to be aware of the different methods of market research and data analysis. Yeah, so market research needs to be done thoroughly for everything we have looked at in lecture 2 for the external environment. Yeah, to understand what are relevant changes that I as a company need to be aware of. Yeah, so market research is essential. Now, because of big data, the availability of data, and that becomes a challenging task because you as a manager, you need to decide what kind of information is relevant. Yeah, so for my decision making. And then I need also to look into the process of data analysis to understand the data that I collected about my customer behavior, for example. So how do I use this to inform action? Now, with customer data, it's pretty easy because when you think of the hotel sector, the reviews that you find on TripAdvisor and also on Booking.com, to see how satisfied my customers are with my service or my product, I can then make adjustments. But I show you some examples when we talk about performance measurement, how complex also that task. So one way of collecting data is through secondary market research. That means I use data and information that already exist within the company or also externally from outside sources. And I gather this data or this information and analyze this for my purpose. Now, when you think of statistical information provided by the official Office of National Statistics or by consultancy companies that offer regular analysis about different developments in the industry, especially after the pandemic, for example. Yeah, so that is material, this information is already available. So it's relatively inexpensive for me to obtain this data. And sources could be such as from international organizations, WTO, the World Trade Report, or World Trade Statistical Review, to see how trade has developed and also to identify opportunities in markets and worldwide that help me maybe choose markets for me to enter. It could also be the International Trade Statistics Yearbook or World Investment Report. Then we have government agencies such as the CIA offering the World Factbook, which is very interesting read. But you also have industry and trade associations that analyze, for example, in terms of the retail industry, that offer very useful information that could be relevant for macro level analysis, but also for industry analysis to see how competitors develop. And you have then, as I just mentioned, consultancy companies that offer also relevant analysis. The issues with secondary market research is that the data that is available might be limited and might not serve the purpose that you are looking for. It might especially be difficult in emerging and developing countries to obtain this data. So when you are thinking about entering an emerging or developing country, you really need to maybe conduct primary research as well, because secondary data might not be available. Then the reliability of data is questionable because it might not be up to date, first of all, and it might also, you never know who collected the data. Is that a reliable process? Were these researchers or were these marketeers from marketing so that do market research? So how reliable is this? That you need to analyze. And in terms of comparability, because data vary, also definitions of data vary greatly from one country to another. When you want to, for example, measure aspects such as growth, economic growth, what kind of indicator do you use or index do you use? So be careful with that. And there are different ways to measure and collect data. In terms of primary research, that is then the alternative, because here you collect data for your own purpose. So you can do surveys or interviews or focus groups to collect data. You can go to trade shows where you meet, for example, competitors or industry representatives, so to get information from them right away. And in terms of the issues regarding market research, primary market research, now when you go and want to find out about the market developments in developing countries or in countries that speak another language, that might be difficult to obtain this data because you have cultural issues, maybe also interpretation issues. So it might be difficult to collect data. It's more costly as well, and it takes also longer time as if you collect data that is already available. So companies need to be aware of that, and that they collect, again, reliable data that is meaningful for the company and helps. Okay, then let's summarize what we've learned in lecture 2. We started off with the analysis of the external environment, just to know how we can formulate strategies based on what's going on around us. So we started off with the macro level analysis and used the Pastel analysis to have a systematic approach to the highly volatile and complex environment. So we looked at political factors, economic factors, social demographic factors, and so on, that need constant monitoring because most of the environments in which companies operate are highly volatile. The next level down was then the industry analysis to understand how attractive the entire industry is. And we looked at different forces, Porter's 5 forces, to understand what is the power of suppliers, for example, and what is the power of buyers. And so that is essential to see whether I stand a chance in the industry if I think about entering the industry. And then we looked at the competitor analysis to identify who are the relevant competitors that I need to be aware of, and to identify also what are critical success factors that matter in the industry and where are some potential gaps that competitors don't fill, and that might be an opportunity for me to tap into the market with an area that competitors don't cover. So the competitor analysis is very useful. We also looked at strategic groups to identify who are similar competitors who have similar strategies, but also maybe in terms of resources who have a similar resource base. And again, the more insights I gain about the competitors and about the industry and the macro level as a whole, the more informed my strategies can be. So that is all for now. In terms of reading, please refer to the main textbook, Fundamentals of Strategy, and read here chapters 2 and 3 from pages 21 to 63. For your quiz, I've prepared again 10 multiple choice questions, which you can have a look at. And as for the case study, for you to analyze, please do the exercise on Alibaba, which you also find in the textbook on pages 38 to 40, and carry out a pastel analysis to identify, alongside the different dimensions of the pastel factors, also whether this is an opportunity or a threat to Alibaba, and then draw a basic sociogram of Alibaba's network and try to explain why it might be useful. So thank you for now.